Hey there. Welcome to today's episode of Mom2Mom Mentoring, defining healthy, happy mother adult daughter relationships. I'm Misty Hughes, ICF certified life coach, CEO of Lead Herd Ministries, Dream Champion, and your celebration coach. As someone who's juggled all sorts of hats as a mom, I get how crazy it can be trying to keep everything together without having anything slip through the cracks. Today, I am so thrilled to have Danica LePorte on the show. She's a mom of two and someone who knows firsthand about the ins and outs of motherhood from both a personal and professional angle. Danica made the brave leap from corporate world to embrace full-time motherhood when her son arrived. The experience was both rewarding and a bit of a roller coaster. As a new stay-at-home mom, Danica found the adjustment from the daily structure of corporate work to the random schedule of a newborn very challenging. After a few months into this new role, Danica determined she needed community. Unfortunately, she couldn't find the group to fit their needs. So, as any entrepreneurial minded woman would, Danica started her own group. This group grew to 25 plus committed moms who did life together. This is just one example of how passionate Danica is about nurturing connections. Even now, as she runs her own event business called Under the Stars KC, family remains her number one priority. In our chat, Danica shares some personal stories and reflections about her relationship with her own mom.
We pick up on, well, we're not living where you think we should, so we're not meeting the expectations of our parents. And no child really wants to not meet the expectation of their parents, even in adulthood, right? Even my 8 and 10-year-olds thrive to make mommy happy, and they really want us to recognize them as doing a good job.
It's these kinds of conversations that shine a light on the universal ups and downs of keeping those mother-daughter ties strong and respectful. Now, if you're looking for some guidance or inspiration to strengthen your relationship with your mom or daughter, this episode might just hit the spot. And hey, if you want some extra support, feel free to schedule a clarity call with me. I'd love to walk alongside of you as you find your personalized strategies to bridge any gaps and build stronger bonds in your family. All right, let's dive into this heartfelt discussion with Danica LePorte and discover how to navigate and nurture these important relationships with a whole lot of understanding and care. Danica, you're a mom. You're managing home, managing marriage, managing a relationship with Jesus, managing very successful and growing, beautiful business. What's your biggest challenge doing all of that?
All of that. Our pastor this weekend said something about change, and I think really if you dive down into who I am, I really like change. So I like to do a lot of different things. If something comes to me that feels exciting and new in that moment, I struggle then to refocus on the things that I had intentions on prior to. So it's what's exciting, what's new, and then what do I lay down? It really comes down to time management and really being able to manage all of the things in their excitement and constant change and stay with one thing.
What is one thing that you've stayed with?
Working out.
Mm.
I work out 3 days a week. I have to because my job is physical. Then another thing I've stuck with is being a mom first, letting things slide or letting things not happen within work or even marriage in order for me to show up at PTA meetings, to be at all my kids' events and scheduling my busy schedule around what's important to them.
So what I hear is a woman who is committed to the things that are very important to her and consistent. And even in the change, she stays true to the things that are valuable and important to her.
I'm really good at seeing those great qualities.
It's because I spent a lot of time beating myself up as a young mom because I didn't feel like I could finish anything. And I learned to go, now, wait a minute, that's not true about me. I am faithful. I am consistent with the things that are really important. And maybe it's just that the season for that was done. We've got to find that good place to settle our hearts in
Yeah.
those things. You have offered me a lot of insight and wisdom in regards with my daughter who is married and has a family and has kids. And so I would love to talk about these mom-daughter relationships that can sometimes be challenging.
I'm excited to talk through with you because you are the mom in this relationship that you and I are walking through and talking about. And what's great is to have a sounding board of somebody that is the other side, and it's really an amazing opportunity for us to talk through like, hey, this is how I'm feeling when you act this way, but why are you acting that way? Because that's something that it's difficult to talk to about the person with, but is really great to talk to as you sound out things and hopefully gives me some perspective onto the behaviors of my mom, who
Yeah.
still sees me as her baby.
That's a good place to start. A question I can ask myself is, how am I viewing this adult child? But she's not a child, this adult human being that I raised.
My mom uses a phrase with me that's a little triggering. Well, you are my child, and I'm like, I don't need to be treated that way anymore. But she uses that phrase. Well, you are my child. I want to do this for you because you are my child. And so it's difficult for me to relate to, even though I have small children, I have a 10-year-old son and an 8-year-old girl. And how am I going to see them when they are in their 40s and my adult children? I don't know how to make that transition for my mom to see me as the adult.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I read a book as a young mom. The author talked about how he was raising his children unto being adults. And it was a mindset shift for me, like, oh, I'm not raising children, I'm raising adults. My youngest son, we had coffee, it's been a couple months ago, but he said, I'm tired of being your child. And I was like, ooh, okay. He's like, can we figure out how to change our relationship? Can you just be my friend? And I walked away thinking, I will always be his mother, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know what he's really wanting. And, I need to explore that question and what his vision of that looks like more with him. What you're saying is a real issue for our adult children.
I
They
mean,
want to be children.
yeah, my mom, she's expressed the same stuff to me. I've said, hey, I just want to be in a different plane of relationship with you. And she says, well, but I'm your mom. In my scenario, my mom is still creating fixes and creating opportunities. Where can I plug in and where can I have that opportunity to fix or be the mother or have a mothering nature? And instead of maybe coming alongside and just kind of coming into that to a friendship relationship as opposed to a mom. And I don't know how to coach her.
I want to explore this with you a little bit because this is important to me. You and I have talked on the side about expectation, but in a perfect world, if you and your mom had that relationship, what would it look like?
I don't I don't know how to have a relationship with my mom in a friendship way, but it would maybe be things similar to a friendship in my adult life. A friendship to me is someone who shares similar interests. At least when we talk about things, we can talk and compare. This is what happened to me. It becomes a, hey, wow, I am coming alongside you. It's a hard one because I don't know how to make a friendship. I don't know how to create relationship. And I think that's maybe where I am stuck is how do we get from, hey, mom, my kids are sick. What do I do? And her giving me an answer to, hey, my kids are sick. I'm relating versus advice giving.
Danica, as you talk about this, I think of one of the most basic and powerful coaching questions that I have opportunities to ask is, what do you really want? And when you're talking about this friendship with your mom, or when my son is talking about that, that's a good place to start, is to really clarify and define, what do you really want? The word that I'm thinking of is mutual friendships. We love this person because they've shown interest in our life, and there's a reciprocation of being interested in each other's lives. Sometimes, as a mom, I don't feel like my kids give a shit about my life. Like they are not curious with me, and they are not interested, and that hurts my heart.
Mhm.
And so when I think of that idea of mutual friendship, I think, well, I want them to be interested in my life as well. And I think when there's that, the relationship can evolve into something beyond a mom-child relationship.
I would say my mom would probably agree with you. I think she would like me personally to call more. She would like to hear from me probably a lot more often. She has done things to encourage our family to reach out more, like she's created jokes with my kids. So she will message my kids a joke and they'll message her back. I would say that my mom has the same sentiment, but I don't know if it's a relational or a generational thing because of when we were littler, there wasn't that need to know more about my mom's daily life. I'm not going to tell my kids I spent an hour recording a podcast with one of my friends today because maybe because we're not sharing those little details of our life as they get up into adult kids, then creating this gap of I'm just living my own independent standard life. And that was something my parents did really well, is raise me to be a very independent. But I think my independence now as the adult child is that, well, I'm taking care of my lane and you're taking care of your lane, and there hasn't been a crossover. And then one thing with my mom specifically and I is that we don't even live in the same place together. So that creates even more. And she's done an amazing job at trying to get us to have Marco Polo dinners together. She's asked for those things as the adult daughter. I don't know where the gap is for me to make that my priority. I have struggled to make the priority of, okay, Nana is what we call her, wants to have dinner with us on Tuesday nights. My busyness of my life can have an impact on whether or not I'm prioritizing time because of that interest in what she's doing. So I appreciate you bringing it up because I know it's hurting her heart, and it's obviously not just her. I have the benefit of living with in-laws that live close to us. And so the gap of location has had an impact on my mom and I, not in an intentional way, but just because I see my in-laws at church on Sunday. My husband is intentional about going to their house once a week. They babysit our children for us. We are in their everyday life just by location.
You said something really good about the things you learned as a child and how you're modeling to your kids. And uh, I thought, oh, you're not going to tell your kids that you did a podcast with me today? like,
They don't care.
ah,
What would that look like if you were a mom my age? What would it look like for you to sit down and tell your kids about your day? Like, how would you do that?
before I get into answering your question, I just want to acknowledge you are a busy woman, and so many women that are listening to this are just busy moms. My daughter is a very busy mom. And so we just need to pause right now and recognize that is a real thing. And it's really hard to think about squeezing another thing or prioritizing another person. So I want to honor that. It doesn't mean we don't still wrestle with the question, but I just want to recognize that that is a reality. So one thing that we did faithfully when my kids were growing up was dinner together. And so that was a time that we always connected. We always shared about our day. And even as the girls got older, at least once a week, we were together around the dinner table. I think that was the prime time to talk about our days and to share with each other What was important? What happened? What was your win? What was different about your day? I think the main thing is that I took time to share as well. Oftentimes, because we want our kids to communicate with us, we aren't taking the time to share about our wins. I do believe it is an opportunity to train and equip our children to be interested in other people. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be at the dinner table. It might be good to just evaluate or reevaluate what's really important to you. And then when you determine that, find a way to create space for that to be a part of the rhythm of your family as well.
We were a family that had dinner together on a regular basis too. My husband was not raised that way, so it's been an interesting dynamic to make sure that he knows and understands that I think it's super important to have dinner together. And then my kids are only 8 and 10, but we are already at that point where it's like, okay, which nights are we actually in the house together so that we can do that? I think what I'm curious to know is like, what kind of conversation pieces would you have during your dinner times? What kind of questions would you ask at the dinner table to help your kids get engaged with what their mom was doing?
It would be a question that everybody would take the chance to answer, and we'd have to listen to everybody, and then we'd get our chance to share. So, I mean, the basic one is what was your win for the day, and why was that important to you?
When was the last time you asked your daughter that on a weekly basis?
That's a good question.
So maybe it's as simple as that. I think
Yeah.
this is an exploratory time for both you and I to
Yeah.
figure out how I can be more respectful and involved for my mom, and then her finding ways or questions that lead us back.
We have incorporated a family Discord. That has been magical and wonderful. And I will say there's been, 5 years of intense separation in our family, and 2024 is the first time in over 5 years that we've come back together as a family just because of some things that happened. So this Discord has given opportunity to hear about everybody's weekend. We do have that opportunity to share about at least a segment of our lives. I think that would mean the world to my youngest son if I just intentionally said, "Hey, I want to hear what was important about your week. I'd love to celebrate that with you."
One thing I think too that I'm not the most responsive. So maybe as a younger daughter, I could be more responsive, but what would you, on her end, maybe a tip or an encouragement that you might give somebody, a mom that feels like their adult children are not responsive and they don't want to get in the way?
I would say this to the mom, put the ball back in the child's court, especially if there was tension in the relationship and I was trying to bridge that gap. I would say, "I love you. I wanna be with you. I wanna know about your life. That's important to me. What would feel safe and comfortable to you?"
I do have a good mom and she's asked those things. I've struggled with responding. So if you have a child who struggles with responding, then how do you overcome that?
I had one.
Yeah.
For a number of years, it was painful. I just kept the light on if they didn't respond because there was something maybe in the way I presented it that was triggering. We've had these conversations since then, and a lot of her reason for not responding was because of my presentation. It felt overwhelming. I kept learning how to back off and how to package it in a way that was
Mhm.
palatable for a daughter that was feeling very overwhelmed by a relationship with me at the time.
How did you know that she was overwhelmed, or was it just that you felt neglected?
I would say the answer to your question is yes, and I can't really answer fully for my daughter because it's her story and her journey. Reaching out to her sometimes often felt overwhelming. Like, I just don't know how to answer my mom. I don't know what she wants. I don't know how to be the right daughter that she thinks I need to be, yada, yada, yada. So all of that is overwhelming. And so it's easier just not to do anything. I don't know if neglected is the right term for what I felt. I do think that this is an opportunity for us as parents to not so much go, well, you're my child, but hey, I'm the parent. I have to regulate my emotions. I have to regulate my presentation. I have to be willing to not demand that my child meet my needs. It's not their responsibility. And I think it's a great opportunity for us as parents to be the parents.
Well, and I think, it's also working through what that next level looks like, because you as a mom have never been a mom to an adult child at this age, and so it's kind of like, how do we start to create that relationship that feels safe, comfortable? You and I have talked again on the side about overwhelming or over expectations. I think there are some expectations that maybe I think my mom holds for me that may not be true. And so things like, well, I expect you to respond right away to my text. Maybe that's my thought process, but my mom knows me like maybe you know your children that, well, she'll respond. And so my expectation of, well, I'm not doing the thing my mom expects versus what my mom's actual expectation is. And maybe a disconnect there too.
Have you and your mom even had a conversation about that? Like where you've been able to say, hey, just so you know, I sometimes may not respond to your text for 3 weeks.
I don't know that there's ever been like a, hey, this isn't an offense to you, it's just where my life is at conversation. I think it's an assumption that I assume she knows and that I assume I've told her. But I think there's probably room to continue to say those things more than once. My mom and my husband are a lot alike and they want constant confirmation.
What would be good for your heart when mom comes to visit your home?
We just need a break, my husband and I. And I think it's just plugging in without setting expectation. So I don't know if it's maybe touching base prior to visiting when any visiting relative comes in and expects us to be either raising our children like we were raised or expects us to be doing things in a certain way and they're not being done. When any expectations are set before you enter into a visit, it can kind of have an impact. We're fighting many battles, maybe even an understanding of what battles we are fighting as a family. That's what my journey is kind of with you, is to talk through what does that journey look like when you come in and set the expectations of, well, you could be doing this better because of this. We already feel a little overwhelmed that we're not doing it that way. It's not just my mom specifically. That's back to that friendship conversation, right? So if a friend walked in the door and saw a dirty diaper on the floor and Cheetos spread around, and she might just sit with me and have coffee and ask me how things are, as opposed to, well, let me help you do this and let me fix this and let me fix that. Until she
How would you feel if the friend picked up the dirty diaper or threw it away? Or would that feel like, oh, she's judging me?
I think it's about like hearing me first and understanding why the dirty diaper's on the floor or why, and then saying, would it help if I picked up the
Instead of making an assumption, I don't know about your mom or other moms out there, but when we go visit any of our kids that have grandkids, first and foremost, we want to be with the grandkids because so we go in thinking if we can just play with the grandkids and be with the grandkids the whole time, that gives mom and dad some capacity, some breathing room. I think we've made that assumption that that's our role. I told my daughter, when I'm coming, I'm not cooking any meals. I just want to play with the grandkids. Oftentimes I would go and cook and I'll go to the store and I'll do all this. And then I'd go, gosh, I hardly get to spend any time with my grandkids.
I think that setting the expectation of when I'm coming, when I'm going to visit, this is where I want the expectation to be, And so I think that that's what happens in our family is when she comes, I think she wants to help in certain ways, like help clean the dishes, fold laundry, make our home the way I was raised in a clean and orderly home. She wants to, because she thinks she's helping to do that. and she wants to spend as much time with the kids. I love that you said when I told my daughter, "I'm not gonna cook when I get there because I'm only gonna take the kids." Well, great, then I have the expectation that you're going to take the children literally from me so that
Mhm.
I can live in my house the way I want it to live. So I can do the shopping the way that it fits our lifestyle. So I can do the responsibilities that I don't normally feel have capacity to do because you've taken the actual children who need all my
Uh,
attention. But you've set that expectation.
there is that desire as a parent. Can we help you clean out the pantry? Or can we help you build those shelves in the closet? Or can we help you do this little home project? And typically they say no, then that hurts.
Right.
Like I'll do something that
Yeah.
will help you. And they're like, no, we'll get to it. I'm verbally processing here. I don't know that it hurts so much as I think it should be important to them.
Yeah.
Project finished. And so when we're offering and they refuse the help, then I think probably what happens and is I am offended that, like you talk about your mom, that they're not living their lives as I think
Mhm.
it should. So
I
I'm
love that. I think
this
you're hitting on something.
awareness. I
Mhm.
think I'm having this awareness,
Yep.
and the thing is I bet they pick. I'm sure she picks up on that, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that.
And that's exactly what it is. Then we pick up on, well, we're not living where you think we should, so we're not meeting the expectations of our parents. And no child really wants to not meet the expectation of their parents, even in adulthood, right? Even my 8 and 10-year-old thrive to make mommy happy, and they really want us to recognize them as doing a good job. And so when you're hitting the nail on the head, when mom comes in and says, "Well, don't you just want me to put all these clothes away for you?" It's like, no, we live with a pile of clothes on our bed at all times. Don't worry about that. Get outside and play with the kids, please. When she comes in and says, "Well, can't I just do this? Can't I just take care of this project? Can't I just hang these shelves for you?" It's almost like, yes, I know that's a project on my to-do list, but it's not my priority. And now you're pointing out that I didn't get it done, and that hurts me.
Okay, okay, this is good. And so, what would be a life giving way to handle that? What would be the dream conversation?
That one's a hard one. As a mom of kids, I would just want my kids to say, "Mom, I want it done this way," and do it. As a daughter of a older parents, maybe it's superficial, but money talks. And so, "Hey, it looks like you're struggling. I'm gonna take the kids so that you can take a nap, and I'm also gonna give you $200 to hire a handyman to do what you need to do." And for me, it's not getting the project done, it's the time management of my entire life. And so, where can I give you time back? And then you can make the choice of what you want to do.
Where I'm not, as a mom, I'm not coming in and saying, "This is where I think you should spend your time."
And so it's more of a general sense of, where can I give you your time back?
Where
And then I get to choose what that looks like.
here's the thing is, my husband and I, we genuinely want to help our children. They're like, "Oh, hey, mom, I've got this project I want you to help me work on." And not that the project takes the whole time. Love serving. And I want to serve my kids
Well, and
in
maybe
what
that would be better in my mind to set the expectations that, hey, when you come, if you want to help, this is the area I want your help in.
uh
Whether it is, "Hey, you're coming. Will you wash dishes every night while you're here?" Or, "Hey, you're coming. Will you put this closet together for me?" Or, "Hey, you're coming."
So then if I'm going and I say, "Hey, we're coming. If you guys have a little project that you want some help on, we'd love to make time."
So you have said that you tell your kids, "I want to be there. I want to help. I want to be part of what you're going through. Think about how I can help you." It's
Yeah.
like, "I'm coming. How can I give you your time back?" And then I'm setting some expectations, and then you're setting some. I think it's really about expectations not being met, which is what causes the hurt.
Yeah. 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 And you may come back and you may say, all I want is for you to be full on with the kids,
Yeah.
where I can step back from that parenting role. But I will say it's kind of hard with the parents still in the house.
Right.
It's really hard
Mm.
for grandparents because grandparents are going to do it different than parents,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
And I think those are predetermined conversations that you have. So maybe that's not something I'm willing to give up to my mom when she's here as the parenting responsibilities. Maybe I do want her to just wash dishes every night. But having that pre-conversation, this conversation starts
right.
much earlier on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a
That's
work in
true.
progress.
That is a work in progress. Danica, you have a thriving business. Tell us first about your business and then tell us how to get a hold of you because you have a very unique niche in your business.
Sure. I am a slumber party creator. So I help people celebrate in unique ways. We create slumber parties indoors and outdoors. We do the tents inside with slumber party beds. Then we also are nature lovers. And so we love to get people outside in luxurious ways. So we do outdoor glamping experiences. We do picnics for all occasions. We create outdoor spaces in the winter in igloos and domes. Our company is called Under the Stars KC, and you can find us at underthestarskc.com and all the different social media outlets to see a little bit about the work that we do. And our contact information is on our website.
Thanks for being on here and talking about hard things with me today. We might have to do a part 2 on this after we both put into practice some of the things we've talked about.
I appreciate your perspective. It helps me think a little bit more about how I can coach my mom so that when she comes, she feels a little bit more seen and heard. And then also how I can be just a little more respectful and prioritize her. Because even though she's my mom, she's also a human who's had her own life experiences and would probably appreciate me being interested in who she is as a person. So I appreciate you giving that insight.
As we wrap up our chat about those tricky, but so important mother-adult-daughter relationships, I hope you're leaving with some fresh insights and a bit of inspiration to navigate these bonds with a little more ease. If there's one thing that you can take away from our talk with Danica today, let it be the power of good, old-fashioned communication, letting each other in, and having those open-hearted conversations to keep your relationship growing strong. For a quick action step, try setting up a regular check-in time with your mom or daughter. It doesn't have to be long, just a weekly catch-up to share what's new, what's important, maybe even how you're feeling, and most important, just to listen. Really listen to each other. It could be a game changer for your connection. And be sure to join me next week on Mom2Mom Mentoring, where my guest will be Kimberly Damon. We're going to talk about estrangement, silence, and the hope of healing. What do you do when your own mother-daughter relationship is fractured? Or when your kids have pulled away? And how can you prevent that from happening? These episodes about mother-daughter relationships aren't just encouragement. Mom, they're soul care for kingdom-minded moms just like you who long for connection, healing, and peace. If you've enjoyed this episode, why not share it with your mom or daughter or even a friend who might find it helpful? It's a great way to start a conversation. Plus, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave Mom2Mom Mentoring a 5-star review and let us know what you think of today's episode. It really helps us to meet more amazing women just like you. Finally, if you're looking for support or a bit of one-on-one guidance, don't hesitate to schedule a clarity call with me. Just go to mom2mommentoring.com/clarity. I'm here to help you nurture those important relationships to the fullest. And as always, remember, Mom2Mom Mentoring is here to help you live powerfully lead with purpose, and love with passion. You don't have to do this alone. Let's keep learning to live from the inside out together. And don't forget, when you shine, you give others permission to shine too. Until next time, I'm cheering you on.